Hey guys, we've got 20 underrated arcade games from the 80s and 90s according to Johnny Riggs.
There are 20 arcade
Fun
games
video to react
that
to
I
today.
played growing up, with the exception of one of them that I think are definitely worth checking out. And one of my favorite movies at the time was Willow, and they made an arcade game based on Willow. This is not like the NES version at all. This one actually plays a little bit more like a Wonder Boy, almost, kind of. You start as Willow, you throw magic as your primary weapon, you can collect gold, you can buy upgrades in the stores that you see along the way.
So it is kind of a little bit, I guess, gameplay-wise like Wonder Boy in Monsterland or something like that. There are light RPG elements, maybe not with gaining XP, but buying items in order to quest and make your character stronger. Here's the problem with Willow. Is it very fun? Yes. But I do kind of feel like the item shop is kind of pointless, because you know these arcade games are designed to just steal all your money, you know what I mean? And Willow, although a really good game, would recommend this to anybody. It is fantastic. It is incredibly tough. And so I kind of just feel like the item store is like putting a band-aid on a big problem. The big problem being a very difficult game. Wonderful game to play though.
It plays like a great kind of run-and-gun action platformer style, which is absolutely wonderful. Love the colors, love the music in this. Great big bosses that will keep you popping in more quarters. And then you alternate between Willow and Mad Bardigan. And both are pretty similar, but kind of different. Willow, the arcade game, definitely worth checking out.
Definitely worth playing.
Admittedly, I was never the biggest fan of G.I. Joe. The cartoon, the action figures, it just wasn't for me for some reason. But I absolutely spent a lot of money playing it in the arcade. I love this game because I was a huge fan of Operation Wolf, and this one plays kind of like Operation Wolf, but instead of like moving left and right, you go down the corridor and it has everything kind of walking towards you, zooming towards you. A little bit like Cabal in a way, you know? You can
Look, G.I. Joe is a great on-the-rails shooter. It kind of looks like a run-and-gun shooter, but it's really a glorified on-the-rails shooter. As I said, the screen automatically scrolls, and you just shoot mobs at enemies, ships, and if you're essentially playing through an episode of the cartoon, the game goes for about 30 minutes. It's really neat. I'm not an expert on G.I. Joe. One of the playable characters is Duke. I usually use Snake Eyes. It's a good time. What I also liked about this game is it can be a little bit tough, but not compared to most arcade games. Like $5 you might end up getting through the whole thing rather than $50 on some other arcade games. But yeah, this is a treat to play. Missed it as a kid. I love playing it on my channel today. I still live stream, especially on the 4th of July.
Choose the person you're playing as, and it's just fun to play, but even funner on a 2-player. If you're looking for a great arcade game that you may have missed out on, you gotta check out G.I. Joe.
It's a good time. You got to get those rapid fire
Now,
things.
this game's taking it all the way back, but it was definitely one of my favorite games for the time. It's called Blueprint. Now, you're trying to save your girl from this weird monster at the top, and you have to do so by constructing this weird gun by collecting pieces from inside these houses. You have to run into a house, grab the piece, put it on the blueprint. Sometimes there's going to be a bomb or something like that. You can put it in the bomb disposal, hopefully in time. There's other enemies you got to watch out for, including potted plants that might fall on your head. And once you have the gun assembled, you can try to shoot the bad guy from down below. It's another one of those perfect examples of like, oh man, I got ripped off this time. I know I can do better next time. You start popping in more quarters.
I haven't played this game, but it looks unique. So it looks like you kind of go through a similar maze to like a Pac-Man game to collect the item pass to put it in the blueprint. So you got like the old school single screen arcadey action happening. And then when you have the gun, you get to shoot stuff. So this is kind of like an early example of like hybrid of gameplay elements in one game. I think this is really neat, and it also looks like an LSD trip.
For classic fun, check out Blueprint.
Okay, yeah, I've not tried that one. Cool.
The more I talk about arcade games, the more I'm realizing not a lot of people have heard of Cowboys of Mesa.
There's a reason.
It's from Konami, and if you love Sunset Riders, you're going to love Cowboys of Mesa. It plays very similarly. 4 players simultaneous, if you wish. Great colors, huge sprites, kind of creative, fun bosses as well. And this is based on a cartoon of its time. I don't know if the licensing was what prevented it from coming out to home consoles like Super Nintendo, but it totally should have.
Yeah. Johnny, I'm going to disagree with you on this one, and to be fair, to play devil's advocate, you're probably a lot better gamer than me. But when it comes to this or Sunset Riders, I'm definitely picking Sunset Riders. Cowboys of Mesa also a Konami game. A colourful game based on the cartoon. You get to pick your cow, basically, and go take out other gangster cows, things like that, enemies, all that kind of stuff. One advantage is you kind of have a hit bar. It's not instant death when you get shot, but it doesn't really mean much. I mean, even playing on an easy dip switch, when I play this game, the bosses seem incredibly difficult and bullet spongy. Like, Konami has been known for having notorious bosses that take 400 hits to kill, but I feel like in this game in particular, it's sort of ridiculous. And to me, there's nothing worse than firing pew-pew guns and everything and feel like they don't pack a punch. Like, when I play this game, not only am I dying all the time, which is frustrating enough, fair enough, it's an arcade game, but I feel like I'm not shooting people with shotguns. I feel like I'm shooting fools with, like, gel blasters or something. There's nothing worse than when your firepower doesn't feel like it packs a punch, you know what I mean? So, a lot of other people do love this game, to be fair. I do not.
Cowboys of Mesa is absolutely excellent. Fun kind of driving title in APB, which stands for All Points Bulletin. This is the game that actually taught me what APB stands for. You're a cop and you're not just driving around the city, you have to pull over the bad guys. And you do so by you have your little target in front of you, so you have to click your siren button on them so they'll pull over safely while not crashing into anyone. That's the hard part. Stereotypical, you can go through the donut shack, you know. And this game even features kind of boss battles where you have to, like, you know, keep on hitting the button as many times as you can to pull over the main bad guys of the levels. It's a little...
You know, I actually haven't played this game properly. I do have a copy of it, I think on the Midway Arcade Treasures and stuff on PS2. I think it was on that. If not, please correct me. But never dived to do it properly myself. I might have to go back and have another crack. I mean, a top-down cop game kind of reminds me graphically of the very original Grand Theft Auto. I think this game itself came out in the mid-'80s, so seems to be a bit of a trailblazer. Looks neat.
A little hard to control, but APB is kind of a fun one.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine those controls would be a bit wonky.
Another absolute favorite arcade game of mine has to be Quartet from Sega. I wish they would do a re-release of this. I wish it would come out, you know, 3D or whatever the case is. I love Quartet. We can at least still play the old arcade version. There is Quartet as well as Quartet 2. Both of them, I believe, are just the same game. Just one of them features 4-player, and then the other one features 2-player, but you get to select who you want to play as, you know, from the 2-player cabinet.
Like a 2D
Absolutely
Space
love the
Harrier.
music in this one. It's just fun to play through and see the enemies and all that. There's a boss in each stage that has the key. You grab the key, you go through the door, you move on to the next stage. Absolutely addicting. I love Quartet. Can't get enough of it.
Oh, so it's like a combination of like flying around in a jetpack and then like platforming elements too. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of Legendary Weeks. But I think that game probably came out beforehand. Might have to check it out. Looks neat.
Another great game from Konami is called Crime Fighters. Played a lot of this growing up. Crime Fighters was you've already played Double Dragon as much as you can. What else is out there? Well, here's another beat 'em up called Crime Fighters. You know, there's two things I love about this game. It's just simple beat 'em up style. You have a punch and a kick, and then the other button attacks behind you. And you can also pick up items and use them to your advantage. Had a friend of mine in school, Dan Messer. He could do that all the time. Love this punk boss at the end of the first stage too. Pretty cool. Crime Fighters is a fun one.
Yeah, look, it is. Like, it was the prequel to Vendetta. Technically, it's Crime Fighters 1. Vendetta was Crime Fighters 2. Look, it's a good beat-em-up game. Graphically, it might not look like much. The gameplay is fun, but again, it's a Konami game from, like, the late 80s, right? So it gets incredibly cheap and frustrating the further along you get. And considering that Turtles came out the same year, that was a much better game than I think than Crime Fighters. But I do have good memories of it. I used to always try to collect the gun because there was a little bit of a glitch that if you could manage to hold onto the gun, you could keep a hold of it for the whole entire level. You didn't have limited ammunition, and so that was the only way to get through a level easily. But good luck keeping the hold of that thing. Anyway, Crime Fighters is okay.
Another classic Sega title with Congo Bongo. This was their answer to Donkey Kong, but this one's isometric. A little 3D value to it. Climb up the platforms, dodge the obstacles, get to the top, and move on to the next stage. And there's like 4 stages, I believe, in this game. 4 or 5 stages, something like that. This one's always fun to re-experience.
Yeah, I think I'm out on this one just based on the fact that it's isometric. When it comes to isometric platformers, can't do it, man. Like, Q*bert just looks like such a simple concept, but I don't know what switches off in my brain, but when I try to go along the tiles and everything, I just can never seem to get the direction right. I can't explain it better than that. I try to go left and then I go down, for example, but I digress. Snake, Rattle, and Roll on NES I had great difficulty with in the same yeah. Look, I mean, hey, some people are programmed to play isometric platforming games, others aren't, and I'm just not, unfortunately. Looks fun, though.
You know who this is?
Oh, yes, it's MJ.
Well, Michael Jackson did a lot of stuff with Sega for the time, including this arcade game, which plays nothing like the Sega Genesis version. Yes, of course, you can make them all dance because it's a Michael Jackson game. And it's just a fun, cool to hear the arcade versions of classic Michael Jackson songs. It's a great game, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker for the arcade. Oh,
yeah, this is a great pick, and I think most people also only remember the console versions. I mean, I rented out Moonwalker on Master System. I was Michael Jackson crazy in the late 80s. And then the 90s, I finally played it on Sega Genesis. It was more of a sort of like a side-scrolling, go up the stairs, down the stairs kind of platforming game where you had to find the kids, defeat enemies. Occasionally you'd get like a survival wave or a boss. or whatever. But the arcade version was kind of like an isometric, again, I say isometric, like action game. But because it was just like a glorified beat 'em up, it wasn't hard to play or follow. And what I loved the most is when you'd get the dance ability and you could clear all the enemies off the screen by breaking down into a dance and song number. It was fantastic. Yeah, but a lot of people don't know about the arcade version, surprisingly.
Oh, and if you get bubbles, you turn into a giant robot.
Oh yeah, you turn into Robo-Myco. Yeah, that's great.
Rock and Rope's another fun one, kind of capitalizing on the whole Donkey Kong mechanics, but instead of having ladders, you have your own grappling hook. So you have to shoot your grappling hook at an angle, and by doing so, then you can climb up the rope to get to the top of the screen.
No. I don't like Lieutenant Dan game. Any game that's a platformer where you can't use your legs, no. You may as well be Lieutenant Dan. I do not like Lieutenant Dan video game.
Pick up the phoenix
for me, I'm
feathers
out.
for the giant bird at the top there. Those eggs you see there will give you invincibility for like a few seconds. Watch out for the bad guys. You have a flashlight you can shine in their eyes. That'll stun them for a while. Make it to the top, move on to the next stage. Classic formula. Now, Mr. Do's had a few games in the past, and Mr. Do's Wild Ride is one I always come back to. It's a maze game, again, go to the top of the screen. However, this one, you're on a roller coaster, so you gotta watch out for the cars. They're not really enemies, they're just in the way. And it was cool to see because I wanted to see what the next stage was going to look like. Very creative stages on this one.
Yeah, I kind of like the look of this one. It kind of has sort of a bit of a Snakes and Ladders-y kind of vibe to it. I think I would play this one. I've not seen that Mr. Do game before.
I mean, it's just a fun idea for a game. Mr. Do's Wild Ride. Not to be confused with Mr. Toad's
Yeah, that
Wild
looks
Ride,
like a cool little time killer. Okay, now we're talking. I'd play that.
Now, this is an arcade game. Admittedly, I didn't play in the arcades back in the day, but I definitely wanted to show attention to it. It's called Double World from Konami.
I've seen this
Very, well, I don't need to tell you what it's like.
Graphically,
but the gameplay
it looks
itself is a little Gauntlet
87.
and a little like Gradius of all things, because you find these items that you can upgrade and you choose your own upgrades along the way. You can do two-player on this one, makes it a lot more fun that way. And again, it's just another one of those games that's just like, you know, super cool idea, never came out on home consoles, I wish it did, but Devil World is one you want to check out for sure.
Yeah, I might have to play this as a bonus game and give it another chance. I have played this before, but for not longer than 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, the Gradius leveling up system, but I mean, that's where the similarities end, right? I mean, it's basically a top-down demon-slaying game. I don't know if it's a survival game or if you have to do multiple levels or what, but we'll definitely have to check this out again.
Another classic game in Guzzler. You play kind of like this glass of water or something, and you have to extinguish the flames by using your water to put out the fires. You have to use that to defeat the enemies too. But by defeating these fire bases, that's what makes it so you can move on to the next level.
Okay,
if you start running out of water, it's no big deal. There's puddles of water all over the screen in each stage. It's just another one of those classic titles. You gotta check out Guzzler.
I'm kind of like...
Oh, we've got the real Ghostbusters up in this.
Okay.
Can't deny the popularity of the Ghostbusters, even today. I thought this had like pretty cool effects by doing stuff like this. But you have this laser, and that laser is basically your weapon for the entire thing. You defeat the bad guys, they turn into ghosts, you capture them too. You don't have to actually capture them, you just have to shoot them with your laser some more. Another fun two-player game, just to see how far you can get on one quarter. You upgrade your laser along the way. I keep calling it a laser, I guess it's a proton pack, isn't it? I'm sorry, apologize. Move on to the next stage. The real Ghostbusters, cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I used to snob that game quite a lot just because I used to find some of the environments a little bit confusing until I got the hang of things, but I put that on a couple times recently and genuinely had a good time. And I think it's based on the cartoon that we used to watch on the ABC at 6 p.m. on a school night, so I guess it was nostalgic as well. Definitely worth a play. I do like that pick.
Now, there's two versions of
this
Jungle
game.
Hunt. Jungle Hunt and there's Jungle King. Both are basically the same.
Right.
Jungle Hunt is you play a guy on a safari, while Jungle King is you play this Tarzan ripoff. So much so, it illegally uses the Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan call, which I'm not going to play for you in this video. But seriously, look up Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan, and it's the iconic Tarzan call. 4 stages on this. You go from rope to rope. You swim through the waters. You can actually kill these alligators with a little knife there. Dodge the rolling boulders, either by jumping over them or ducking under them. And then the final stage is you got to save the girl from these cannibals. This was a game that actually taught me what cannibals were. Pretty good.
You know what? I mean, this is pretty cool. You think about when this game came out, it was somewhere between 1980 and 1982, right? The reason it's so impressive is because I didn't really notice, like, platformers that weren't single screen really until, like, 84 with games like Legend of Cage, I think it was. And then Ghosts and Goblins really took the genre off, I suppose, in 1985. This game came out much earlier and seems to be controlled pretty tightly as well. I mean, I have played this, but not for a very long time. I always remember to have fun playing it back in the time too. There was also an Atari port as well that also played really well. And yeah, might be worth going back down memory lane for this one. It's a pretty cool game.
Difficult to do here, and did not luck out. Well, all right. Maybe you have better luck than I do. Another game not a lot of people are talking about, missing in action from Konami. Remember Russian Attack? This is the sequel to Russian Attack. And it plays like Russian Attack. Just like Russian Attack, you can kill the bad guys with your knife. You can pick up, bazooka, for instance, to help you out along your way. Unlike Russian Attack, there's even ladders that go down, so you can go below the levels. There you go. Missing in Action is a fun one. This was a game that we had for maybe about 3 months at a local gas station, and I played whenever I could.
Yeah. Look, you know what? It is a fun game. Essentially, it's Russian Attack on steroids. It looks better. There's more enemies. Still pretty tight controls, but this was like the era of like really brutal late 80s Konami games, you know what I mean? So I actually did play this a fair few times, and the difficulty ended up consuming me, and I would rage quit this one in particular. But it's definitely one I'd go back to, because I am a big fan of the original Russian Attack. I'm a lot better at that one too, thankfully. I was saying much, however.
Now, if you're not sick of the Donkey Kong ripoffs yet, we definitely have Kangaroo. For you. Kangaroo, so popular, it was in a Saturday morning cartoon in the Saturday Supercade lineup for a small while. You're a mother kangaroo trying to rescue your Joey. These monkeys are bothering you, but it's all good. You gotta punch their apples out of the way or dodge their apples. Yeah, it's just another Donkey Kong style game, but I absolutely loved Kangaroo. Soft spot in my heart for this one. Of course, I'm going to talk about Wrestle Fest. Played a lot of this one at my local grocery store that had.
Okay, I don't really know what universe that Wrestle Fest is underrated. I think everyone at this time period was pretty WWF crazy, because this was in the peak of its popularity before the drop-off in the mid-90s, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I had this at the corner store. I was on this machine with my friends. With that being said, I wish they kept it for longer, because it disappeared and they replaced it, I think, with Street Fighter, which understandably so. But I thought this game was absolutely fantastic. All our favorite wrestlers, including the openers, the mid-carders, and the main eventers from the time period. And it's a shame most of the people in this roster actually are no longer with us. But what an incredible game it was. But I think most people know what this is. I don't really need to go further into WWF Wrestle Fest.
Now, these WWF games in the arcade were so good because they were made by Technos, who makes games like, Super Dodgeball, makes games like Double Dragon and more. So, I mean, if we had this at home, there wouldn't have been an issue. Now, WrestleFest, you can do a single-player match, or you can also just do a Royal Rumble. That's always what I did. Different wrestlers had different moves. Some of them had their finishing moves as well. I love it. It's WrestleFest. And
we still got Raw and Royal Rumble at home.
And what can I say? It's just fun game. Now, we talked a lot about Donkey Kong clones, but this was more of a Pac-Man clone, if anything. This is Crystal Castles from Atari, and I can't get over how much I love this game. I can't even tell you why I love this game so much. I just do. You play the role of this bear, Bentley Bear, I believe the name is, and you have to pick up all these gems. Gotta watch out for the enemies. At the arcade, this game used a trackball, which was kind of unique for its time. You can jump over the enemies and just gotta grab them all. Sometimes the enemies also grab them, so make sure you grab them before they do. You get a better score that way. And I just thought it was cool, like how the stages generated on each time you went to a new stage. I thought it was just so cool. I love it.
I've never played this with a trackball. I played it on Atari, but I also played it on MAME, but set up with a joystick, which is a little bit more finicky, I'll admit, because as I said, this is supposed to be played with a trackball. Usually struggle, like I said, with isometric, sort of like 3D style, like platforming games or arcadey games. This one I kind of got the hang of. I mean, I could at least beat a half a dozen levels. A lot of fun and a great time killer. I would recommend this to anyone that loves Pac-Man or single-screen arcade games for sure.
This game still played today. Now, Gottlieb's best known for their pinball machines and Q*bert, no doubt. However, they had a game called Reactor that I was a huge fan of as well. The more the stage goes on, the more the core in the middle gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So you're losing playfield here. Just like Berserk, the walls are electric or whatever, so you just have to bounce the bad guys into the walls. And when you do that so many times, then you move on to the next stage. The game itself is pretty cool, but my favorite memory of this is because we had a local arcade that had this, and they had the music turned up way loud. So as soon as you walked in, you'd hear this song. And that song brings me back to going to this smoke-filled arcade as a kid, back when smoking was allowed inside, and playing some Reactor, man. Super cool. If you like videos like this, I have a whole playlist full of other must-play games.
All right, well, thank you, Johnny Riggs. I thought your list was really interesting. Might have not agreed with all of them, but I thought most of the videos were pretty sweet. If you got good taste in games, please make sure you're checking this guy out. We'll see you on the next video, everybody.